So, welcome everyone to the Future is Bright podcast. My name is Chris Batz with Columbus Street. I'm exclusively focused on and facilitate corporate law firm mergers, acquisitions, combinations nationwide here in the United States. My co-host, Howard Rosenberg, will not be joining me today. From time to time, I am recording solo episodes on intelligence I gathered from conversations with managing partners, members of executive or management committees of corporate law firms. And it has certainly been a busy summer. So today I have the pleasure of sharing insights with you from the front lines of conversations with those leaders of small and mid-sized firms. This summer has been incredibly busy. Fortunately, I just wrapped up my executive MBA from Columbia in May, caught a few extra hours of sleep and a little bit of extra time with the family before I started getting approached by a number of firms and now facilitating more than a few deals. To think I would catch my breath after school, but honestly, the summer has been so much fun, and I look forward to sharing with you things that I've learned and are honestly on the minds of decision makers, managing partners, chairmen, CEOs, managing shareholders, executive committee members, management committee members. And so this episode is for those folks. And I want to share consistent themes I'm hearing that law firm management are feeling squeezed. So, but I won't leave you just there. At the end, I'm going to share some insights about how law firm management can adapt and compete. So, who is this for today, and who am I talking about? So, mid-sized firms, I define by law firms with 50 attorneys up to about 200-ish lawyers. And small firms are usually under 50 lawyers. The ones I'm generally relating to are like 20 to 50 lawyers who I speak with on occasion. So, as far as numbers are concerned, there's about 650 corporate law firms of 50 headcount to about 200. You could throw in another 50 firms, so call it 700 firms that are not a part of the AmLaw 200, 100, 200, that are more than 200 attorneys. So total 700 firms. And then under 50 headcount, you're looking at about another 1,200 firms. That's from, call it 25, 26 headcount up to 50. So roundabout, it's about 2,000 firms. And this defines mid-size. This defines definitely non-AmLaw U.S. law firms. And if you're feeling squeezed from both sides, from these lifestyle boutiques and mega firms, big law firms, this episode's for you. And it is also for those firms who are curious about what I'm talking about today. So when I say squeezed, this is what I mean. Associate talent are being trained straight out of law school. And when they get to this level of desirability, larger firms are poaching them for a $100,000 pay raise, as an example, in one of the firms I've spoken with in a major city. So big law is poaching them for more money, significantly more money. And then lifestyle firms are offering them not necessarily less money, but in many cases it is slightly less, but they're offering them a different expectation of work. And people are skipping out. So firms that need leverage to service their clients are having a hard time keeping their talent. And these are mid-sized firms. Another dynamic, again, being squeezed. You have an exhausted, overextended leadership team. These folks, because most of these firms are traditional law firms, are meritocracies. That is, they're the highest billing or the chief rainmakers in the firm who then become promoted to be the CEO, the managing partner, the chairman, co-managing shareholders if they're fortunate. And then they still bill. So I'll provide an example of a dynamic like that. So it's managing a firm and billing a lot. Uh, then you have some challenges, in addition to what I mentioned, that are more strategic. I will call them weaknesses. And you're looking at gaps in geographic reach. You're looking at gaps in bench depth, so capabilities. Um, and then you're looking at uh, subspecialties that are just disappearing at firms if they had them. And if they had them, they're disappearing mainly because they've never been succession planned, or they're retired, or recently retired, or they've gone off to the competition that's paying them a lot more for that unique subspecialty. So that talent is disappearing and critical support for clients. Um, Now, another form of, again, being squeezed is this concept of organic growth. So you have mid-sized firms who are experiencing lagging organic growth, single digit, if they're lucky, organic growth, or the opposite extreme. You have firms, mid-sized firms with substantial growth, maybe upper single digits to 10% or more, but they can't keep up with it. And their platform limits them either by talent or geography or other dynamics to match client need. And so they're being squeezed. And that's having too much growth is a great problem, but it is a problem. And then lastly, how are they being squeezed? It's through recruiting. It's through talent acquisition. Um, and I would argue it's slow, it's inefficient, and it's expensive. Um, and in many cases, they can't keep them. Or the quality that they get is does not match or compete with the quality that they've seen in their competitors. So I'm going to provide two scenarios from all my conversations with numerous firms this summer and prior to the summer. I've had lots of conversations with clients prior that have led up to this very busy summer. So, and there's various reasons why this summer is crazy. I used to think it was something in the water, but I'm sure it has something to do with politics, has something to do with the economy, and it's warm outside and people are excited. So, scenario number one. Uh, in conversations with more than one firm, I'm going to paint a firm scenario. The national firms are coming. Uh, their work, this firm's work, and again, this is not just one firm, their firm work has shifted from lead counsel to now local counsel. So they're being dictated work from other law firms versus coming directly from clients. And those big matters are no longer coming. So bill rates don't, can't continue to increase because the quality of the matters have gone down, and it's turned into increasing likelihood of commodity work versus the complex high value work that would come straight from a lead counsel relationship. Also, this firm dynamic, you're dealing with younger generations that are just not motivated, not working as hard, don't want to put their effort and time and late nights and all those things that come along with older expectations of certain firms. It just isn't there. And so labor has shifted to other types of attorneys that traditionally wouldn't have been, whether it's contract lawyers, whether it's a compromise on talent for lifestyle, hoping to eke out 20, 30 billable versus 40 to 60 billable a week. And then it's leaning on outside talent in different ways. So again, contract lawyers. Now, the other dynamic is just the good lawyers are working less or leaving and hanging their own shingle for a lifestyle choice, or they're being poached. Just to competition or to top tier firms. Uh, so this firm's desire is to attract the right work and the right people and to avoid insurance defense and not routine volume work. That's uninteresting. So they're asking the question, they're trying to figure out how to retain their talent. They're worried about being forced to choose and to make a decision, maybe one that they don't want to make. And their key question today is, do they get lean or do they get bigger? So I did have a conversation with one particular firm, and one of their thoughts was to go lean and to shift their culture into a more higher expectation, higher performing firm. And that's on their radar. They're thinking about that, and maybe they call their talent, meaning they kind of shed unproductive billable hours and recruit the more productive, more hardworking, more focused on profitability partners in their city and recruit them in. And that's a question they're asking themselves. I'm also presenting to them law firm merger opportunities. Scenario number 2. So in this case, there is 2 law firm leaders. One of them actually was brought back, and they're billing substantial hours, more than 2,000 hours. And they're chief rainmakers, and they do not have a succession plan, meaning when they're trying to solicit opportunity to lead and to take responsibility inside the firm, other partners would rather just simply bill and enjoy their time off on the weekends or things like that. So I have a firm, highly productive, doing amazing things, and they don't have the substantial leadership internally to scale and grow, to help manage and share the burden of management. The co-managing partners are billing 2,200 hours and then dedicating time to management, which easily could be probably another 700, 800, 1,000 hours a year. So a lot. This firm also wrestling with keeping talent and seeing significant offers come to their associates. The other dynamic I'll share is, and this is more in the case of firm 1, is they just simply don't have a culture for management. They don't pay for it. I would say this firm number 2 doesn't pay for it. And so what's incentivizing attorneys to lead versus bill? Another dynamic of scenario number 2 is that they have huge clients and would easily give them more work, but this firm has very limited geographic reach. And so I'm assisting them and giving them some very exciting choices moving forward. Another dynamic I just want to present as we roll up these challenges of where law firm management feels squeezed. This question is posed to me, and I share it back to management. And it's this tension. Do you bill or do you lead? And I would argue that you need to choose, because the more sophisticated competitors, either larger, more profitable, have stronger market position, have figured out that it is very effective and very important that as an organization grows, they need leaders leading their firm, not billers. And there are some different firms out there I've built relationships with that have doubled down on this idea, and they have slimmed out management so that their management teams are high-performing managers that are amazing at managing. And they have their best billers, their best originators doing that. And so And I'm going to have firms that come back to me and argue with me and say, hey, it's really important I stay in the courtroom, but I still lead this law firm. And I would say that's great, but there's a trade-off. You're making trade-offs in this when you choose to divide your time. Because at the end of the day, focus really matters. Now, some of this can be divided in a productive way where firms are creating co-managing partners, co-managing shareholders. They create a firm structure where there is a managing shareholder for the revenue side of it, management of of lawyers, and then a CEO over the non attorney leadership of the firm. And so firms are getting creative, but they're investing, and they're investing in talent. Some of this talent is not law firm JDs. They're not trained lawyers. There might be coming out of other professional service industries. They might be coming out of other sectors of business. In some cases, clients. Kirkland announced their COO came from private equity, which is an incredibly smart move because those guys are operational rock stars and they know how to run a business. And so there is this challenge where mid-sized firms are feeling the squeeze because their leaders are trying to do it all, and they're wrestling with having the right people on the bus, basically. So so how do we address all this, and where does this all go? I'm going to talk about growth because that's what this podcast is about. That's what I'm focused on. That's what Howard is focused on. And there's a couple different ways that these types of law firms are addressing the challenges, the squeeze. You could look at lateral recruiting. It is an effort that's been focused on very hard for the last 25 years, very consistently since the turn of the century, 2000 until now. It's only increased, and the really smart firms, the really effective recruiting mechanisms within law firms have a lot of human bench behind it, and many of them are not JDs. So relying on onesies and twosie partners in small groups is a very common thing within corporate law firms today. But if you're trying to fill gaps and you're dealing with attrition, which everybody is, it's very time consuming. You'll notice an inconsistency. The smaller the firm, it's expensive. It's very costly, and in some cases, it's not worth the impact. It tends to have a net negative if there's unsuccessful hires with partners who are promising to bring something and they don't. So, how to effectively do lateral recruiting? It's done through volume and systems with talented humans that know how to manage and a process and people, and a law firm that's created structure and very strong systems that involve your best selling partners that understand the culture of the firm and that have created a tight machine to work through volume of partners, because you got to talk to a lot of partners to find the right ones that are a strong fit. Otherwise, you're hiring partners for just numbers sake, and that is not a strategy. But a strategy can be learning when to say no and knowing exactly what you're looking for. And you have to talk to a lot of partners. It's the same thing with associates. So it is a numbers game. But the ROI is slow. And so if firms are trying to make important changes to their law firm, mid-sized firms, you need a robust recruiting system, and you have to expect it's slow. If you do it right, it's slow. So I want to pose another option. I want to pose a couple different options. Another one is acquire a smaller firm. So if we're addressing the challenges of talent and succession planning and law firm deficiencies that have creeped up on you by attrition, by other advancing competitors, and you're trying to bridge the gap, you can, as I just said, do recruiting, onesie, twosie, small groups, and hopefully you have a good system and it's effective and you do volume. Or you can acquire an entire law firm, boutiques. Maybe there's something regionally you can look at or in a certain city, things like that. Uh, Now, depending on the size of your firm, if we're talking about a 100-person law firm, kind of right in the middle for mid-size, that might be 20, 30, 40, 50 attorneys maybe. So the effort you put into a deal like that can be the same amount of effort if you put into a merger of equals or joining a larger platform. In some cases, joining a larger platform is a lot easier. But the effort that you put into lateral recruiting, if you do it right, is going to be more effort than you do in talking to smaller firms. So a small acquisition or a merger of equals, because you're having lots of different conversations. But when you think of leverage, if you're trying to get the right one attorney, you're going to talk to a lot of attorneys. Trying to get the one or two or the small group, you're going to talk to a lot of groups. But what if you talk to just firms that checked many boxes? And in the case of a smaller firm, 20 to 50 attorneys, or something, and again, I'm just using 100 attorney law firm as baseline. Or a merger of equals would be 80 to 120 attorneys, assuming some similar economics here. The amount of effort, the amount of time to make those things work are as much, and in some case less effort than doing ones, twos, and small groups. And I have clients that have approached me over the years and said this exact fact to me. Chris, ones, twos, and small groups aren't cutting it. We need to take on larger transactions. We need to grow faster. And ones and twos and small groups are taking forever to grow. So benefits. Obviously, acquiring a small firm, there's less hit on cash flow. There might be a little bit of a faster ROI, easier integration. But the challenge I would say is, does that really move the needle? Does it really move the needle to compete? Because you're like, you acquire the small firm, you guys celebrate, and then you all hit this reality that you still are nowhere closer to competing and getting into a greater sense of perception of competition against your competitors, or inside, in your client's mind, you're anything more valuable to them. So what's really going to move the needle for your clients? Because at the end of the day, growth and strategy has to be client first, has to be strategy come from clients first. So I advocate that it's very important to look at strategy first and really ask the hard questions. Would a small acquisition really move the needle, depending on what you're trying to achieve and what that time frame looks like? And so looking at a deal that would add more scale, a deeper bench, potentially better clients, and get you a position in the market faster. Because at the end of the day, speed matters. Because all these other firms that are big are already years ahead of you. And the important thing here is can be speed. Speed is very important when it comes to competition against the bigger firms. So there are challenges with larger transactions. Of course, you're going to have conflicts with anything, but there could be more. Just depends. You obviously have to be very smart about culture alignment, economic alignment, value alignment, which is where I come in. I speed up the process for all law firms I work with, and I make sure that they're actually talking to bullseye targets versus what many other people try to do, which is just throw spaghetti on the wall. It's not how I operate. So you could do, again, small merger of equals, or you could join a larger platform. Again, we're trying to address the feeling and the reality of being squeezed. And you do that by growth, and you have the right people at the right place. And why do all that? Because you're trying to get a better market position to compete against your peers and to be more sought after, and create a more desirable perception from your clients to get better work, less routine work, more strategic, higher value work, and stuff that might keep your attorneys more interested. So I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room that everyone doesn't want to talk about, which is joining a larger platform. And larger doesn't have to be mega. So for a 100-person firm, if you were to consider talking to a firm of 2 or 3 or 400 attorneys, that's large. It's not thousands. And there, you can do these deals without sacrificing your culture, without sacrificing your value, because there's so many firms out there. There's an opportunity for alignment. And yet, these deals all require some measure of change. It's the only way you continue to remain in a strong market position, or you're growing towards a strong market position to garner favor with your clients. You have to change, you have to evolve. And so that's an important factor in all this. But there's a lot of benefit to joining a larger platform. And there's several of them out there, but you can achieve what you want in some ways and have your cake and eat it too. So I'm here to advocate for that, but there's more that I'm going to share here. So I want to talk about another aspect of this idea of being squeezed. There is a hidden cost, and it's largely what is wreaking havoc on these mid-sized and small firms, which is time, energy, and burnout. I've got managing partners telling me they're just like, they don't have the energy to do it. And what they're ultimately looking at is joining a platform so they can simply bill and they don't have to lead. But they can get back to billing, they can get back to leveraging a larger platform. Doesn't have to be mega, but something bigger than them that allows them to make rain, to have the subspecialties, and to have the geographic reach that their clients want to provide, like want to see and give them work. So mid-sized firms and smaller firms are struggling with, dynamics of what could be fragility, emotional exhaustion, you know, in many cases, just kind of sticking your head in the sand. But there is a true opportunity cost here for managing partners. And there's an opportunity cost for larger firms not seeing the opportunities with these firms I'm talking about. So I'm here to kind of bring this to the surface. I'm sure plenty of people know about this already, but it's basically from a lot of conversations I've had and a lot of face-to-face meetings I've had. And there's a real cost. It is dollars, but it is time. And with lawyers, we all know dollars or time equals dollars. So some other dynamics I want to share that I haven't mentioned that I want to bring up. So there's another firm, I'll use it as scenario number 3, that came to me. I was approached by an executive committee member. It's a boutique. I won't say what industry, but he's a rainmaker and he's younger. He's not 60. He's not one of the founders. And he approached me and said, look, we've got these dynamics. We have a lot of routine work. We're not getting high value work. We're a boutique. We're in certain cities, and we have blue chip clients. And blue chip clients, are putting a lot of pressure on us for pricing. What if we are at a firm that really could use our capabilities in middle market transactions? We believe there's a lot of value with what we could offer. And we believe that client base would be better served by us. And so the uniqueness of this is I have somebody who has loyalty to the founders of the firm because it's a great firm. It's a great culture. They've been given opportunities. They've been able to make rain. They've generated a large book of business, and yet they feel stuck. These rainmakers, young leaders up and coming, are looking for the right platform to take their firm to. And so is the founder. So I had a conversation with the founder too, and it's the same story, except, obviously this person's a bit older and there's a bit more healthy skepticism, but wants what's best for the overall partnership. And there's a lot of promise there. It's exciting. They have a very impressive group of clients, of attorneys, young and hungry, up and coming leaders. And there are a lot of firms that need that kind of leadership, that want to speak to firms like this with all this energy in these younger leaders. And so this is not uncommon. It's in several of the firms that I've spoken to. Ironically, it exists in boutiques. And so boutiques are kind of getting their butts kicked a little bit because of the growing needs of their clients and what clients are doing. Clients are sending higher value work to firms with greater capacity, greater geographic reach, and are able to address the growing changes of their businesses. And so it's an interesting tension that's present. So I want to talk about the coming shift. I want to talk about how we're going to, how can we address all of this? So people, when I talk to law firm managers and executives, they say, Chris, I don't want to lose our independence. We don't want to lose autonomy. We don't want to lose our legacy. We don't want to lose what makes us special. And I said, great. Then let's not do that. And let's find firms that will, that match and are aligned. They're just bigger, but they have some similar stories, and they have a lot of similarity, have a lot of rhyming and values and economics and culture, and they have a lot of respect for other firms' culture and legacy. And so you will find that the things that are psychologically preventing you from wanting to address what your firm needs to do, there's options out there. So that's another thing I want to share, is that the psychological can be addressed. Number two, there is a unique new challenge coming to law firms, and this has blown up my desk this summer. Private equity are investing in law firms. And here's the thing, they have been investing. It's been nascent. It's been very quiet. They're doing it. They're not making waves. They're not trying to get press. And they're trying to do it so many people don't know about it. But that's all going to change soon, because we're going to see some marquee investments in likely the AmLaw 100, 200, or even the AmLaw 25 in the next 6 to 12 months potentially. And once that happens, the question that law firm leaders need to understand is, will you remain independent, or will you consider joining a firm that has private equity backing? Can you, as an independent firm, compete with a private equity backed firm that not only recruits laterals, but provides cash and equity for them to participate in? Now, it's completely legal. It's completely ethical. There's an episode that Lucian Para that we're going to roll out that will explain a lot of this. But the psychological will be the greatest challenge to this. And so it's not enough that small, mid-sized firms need to think strategically about how they're being squeezed and the challenges they're faced with, but they also need to really consider the true impact of private equity and what that means to their business model, what that means to their culture, even frankly, what it means to their compensation, their governance. It's very exciting. It can be incredibly catalytic for the right mid-sized firm, and yet it'll make it more competitive. So I want to throw that out there. Now, how can mid-sized firms adapt and compete? And I want to wrap this up in a bow by just sharing some ideas. None of this will be new or surprising to you, but it's important to be reminded of. And what I would say is, I'm going to go through a list, and I would say is pick your top one, two, or three, and then ask which one has low-hanging fruit that you can act on as quickly as possible, and use that for your strategic planning into 2026. So here are some points. Mid-sized firms can take the following steps to survive, but not just that, but to thrive and to adapt and to be more competitive. They can do that through to clarify and commit to a strategic vision. Most firms don't have a strategic vision. They just think they're going to be the firm of this city, of this town, or this state, and yet they don't have true strategy. And true strategy isn't necessarily understanding what your clients want. It's understanding where you stand in market position to your competition and being very sober about who your competition is, and then creating a plan to compete against them. Most firms aren't sober and don't have a plan to know how to compete. So that's number one. And so you can create a strategic vision, and you can take steps and create milestones to get to where you want to be and how to bridge that gap from what your current position is and what your aspirational position is to increase perception of value to your clients. Number two, take a very serious hard look at leadership and succession and investing in it. So creating a culture that values and compensates management and not just billable hours, and develop a succession plan to help putting the right attorneys in front of client-facing, in the hands of client-facing attorneys, as well as bringing your best managers forward and letting them focus on what they do best. Because managing people is not an easy thing. I think all of us know that, and that probably is even more so for attorneys. So I'm going to say point number three is to pursue smart growth. This isn't growth for growth's sake, and this isn't random growth. This is strategic growth. So you don't want to consider mergers, acquisitions, or combinations without knowing what your strategy is. So that first point is key. Knowing your strategic vision, knowing your strategy, and then asking yourself, what's the best way to accomplish it? Can you do it slowly? Can you do it organically? Should you do it through laterals? Is it a timing thing? You need to act quickly. And should acquiring a small firm, a firm of equal size or larger, help you achieve your strategy? So, and then how, and why? So is it about scale? Is it about bench and resources? Is it about geography? Being mindful of that. When you consider, and if you were to consider mergers and acquisitions with firms, you need to know what your ideal firm is. Do you have that ideal profile? Do you have a spec understanding of exactly what you're looking for? So, fourth point, again, to adapt and compete in this environment, invest in technology, talent, and infrastructure. The challenge for mid-sized firms is that they're undercapitalized, and they zero out their income statement every year to minimize taxes. Many of them aren't setting aside significant money, and there is a real challenge because the larger firms are investing tens of millions, if not 100 million, and hundreds of millions in technology, talent, and infrastructure. So the question you almost want to ask is, what size firm do you need to be to make the significant investments? Or what firms have already made those investments so that you can leapfrog that process? Because if you were to acquire a small firm, are you in any better position to make those investments? That's important to ask. Another thing, as I brought up before, could there be new sources of capital? So private equity is coming. If there's interest from you, let's talk. Family offices, real private equity shops. You can borrow traditionally. You could go the BDO route and convert to a corp and then create an ESOP and then borrow based on your enterprise value in private credit markets, which BDO did. And so that allows them to remain independent without sharing ownership. So could there be creative ways to obtain additional capital to make investments in M&A, technology, and talent? So another one Point number 6 is strengthen your recruiting and retention. And what I would say is, do you have a plan of attack? Do you have assigned roles? Are they rehearsed? Does everybody know? And are they saying the same thing? Do you have your best salespeople in front of laterals? Do you have a strong machine and a reoccurring pipeline of talent coming to you, particularly on the partner side? These are all things that allow for lateral recruiting success, among other things. Point 7, creating a culture of adaptability and innovation. So part of the reason why mid-sized firms aren't growing that much or in the position that they are is they struggled or chose not to adapt with their clients. Their clients outgrew them. Their clients sought after, needed other services that the firm didn't anticipate or could not or would not address in their firm. And it may require them joining another firm with, say, a client of theirs goes public and is publicly traded, and maybe the original law firm never had publicly traded capabilities, so they need to join a firm with SEC attorneys and things like that. And maybe they're in a city that doesn't even have that kind of capabilities. But adaptability and innovation is absolutely necessary to keep pace with your clients. Otherwise, you're going to be reduced to routine, commodity, low rate work, and it's volume work. And you're there and you're local counsel, so they're going to give it to you. But I don't think that's a position you want to be in. Point number 8, prioritize. So client relationships and service, which is a form of several law firms have taken this place, and public accounting and consulting has done a great job with this, which is create relationship teams that deliver amazing value. Price is what you paid, value is what you get. There are a lot of firms that can garner higher rates because of the value that they're giving to their clients. And there's a lot of best practices out there for driving value, but it deals with non-lawyer talent. It deals with non-billable services. It can be sales, it can be marketing, it can be thought leadership, it can be a lot of things that add value to the client. Number 9, so self-awareness and cultural alignment. The challenge and the journey of exploring a pivot or adaptability first begins with understanding yourself and being sober and really knowing your position. So knowing your culture, not guessing at it, not hoping it's something, not thinking it's the values on the door, but that's not really what people believe, and actually having defined strategic goals. And the only way you can have defined strategic goals is knowing your market position. Your market position is soberly looking at your competitors and asking yourself, why are we not at this level when we're not even on the radar? Why are we not on the league tables? Why are we not in chambers? Why are we not in these things? And that's the sober reality that has to be asked. And what does it take to get there? Bridging that gap. So it's self-awareness and creating a culture and alignment that matches with goals and milestones that will get you to that point. So that's point number 9 is my final point. But I greatly appreciate everybody who stayed with me to the end. A couple things. So listeners and subscribers, if you haven't already, follow me on LinkedIn. You can find my account easily. You can find Columbus Street on there. I've got links within the show notes. If you haven't already, please leave a review for me. I think iTunes is the top one. If you can do that with Spotify, I'm not sure. But please leave a review. And if you have questions about any of the subjects I talked about, if any of this strikes a chord with you, feel free to reach out to me to columbus-street.com or find me on LinkedIn. Hope to hear from you soon. And thank you everyone who stayed with me to the end.